Welcome, everyone, to Friday 15. Had to let the band play there for a minute, Mr. Hoare. My name is Brian Beck. I'm your co-host along with Andy Hoare of the Master B2B Friday 15 broadcast and podcast. Everyone, welcome. Andy, good to be here with you on a Friday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a great one today. This is one people have been asking us about. It's an emerging topic. Many people don't understand. So we get a chance to visit a brand new concept.
That's right. I'm excited to hear it. So let's dive in. So Andy, I don't know if you saw the story this week in Vox, but this is interesting. It says Google, as you know it, is slowly dying. Wow. AI generated summaries from Google and others are causing major declines in publisher referrals, reductions of 15 to 64% in organic traffic, depending on the industry and query type. For example, New York Times organic referrals in April 2025 dropped from 44% to 36%. Andy, this is a game changer. Google itself, if you search on Google and you do work on their, any search, above the fold, it shows it'll show the AI results, right? It'll show AI answers. And that is causing a dramatic reduction in click-throughs to websites, because guess what? Google Gemini, right? Google is answering the question right in the search result. So Google is like eating itself, right? I mean, their value to media companies and advertisers and retailers and B2B companies, is driving traffic to websites. What if that traffic never goes to a website? Guess what? Their business model is upside down, isn't it?
Well, we touched on this a couple of months ago, actually. We shot across the bow, and it was the guy from Apple who testified in court under oath that Google's traffic on Safari had declined for the first time in 20 years. And that sent a shot across the bow, because a lot of companies were like, whoa, what's this about? And so, yeah, what's happening very simply is people used to use the Google search engine to get answers. And as we know, it gives you sponsored results and organic results, but it gives you a list of options for places where you can go get the answer. Well,
right.
With AI, you don't have to go get the answer. It just gives you the answer, in which case begs the question, how does Google monetize that? Now, some tells me they're going to figure that out, but this is the classic innovator's dilemma, right? They have to cannibalize an existing business to create a new business, but there's no better evidence that Google knows the severity of this, because I just saw this morning.
Yeah.
Google is now offering buyouts to members of it's called the Knowledge and what is it called? Knowledge and Information Unit, K&I. Huh. It's the largest group it houses Google's search, ads, and commerce divisions. They had layoffs to the tune of 12,000 in 2023.
Yeah.
But they're offering voluntary exit programs, VEPs. Wow. And people are now joking on LinkedIn that's basically the new layoff. So basically they go to you and say, hey, in fact, the way they wrote this was kind of funny. I have to read this quickly. If you're excited about your work, energized by the opportunity ahead and performing well, we really, really hope you don't take the buyout. We have ambitious plans and tons to get ahead. On the other hand, this VEP offers a supportive exit path for those of you who don't feel aligned with our new strategy, don't feel energized by your work, or having difficulty meeting the expectations of your role. So, I mean, if this isn't a backhanded slap,
that's
basically we screwed up. You're in the wrong group. If you're not meeting our expectations, you can take this voluntary buyout and we'll spare you the layoff. But
that's crazy.
Google is now laying people off in the search group. And you just heard the language they're using. So there you have it.
That's amazing. Well, this dovetails really well, this discussion, into our topic today, which is all about, is GEO replacing SEO? GEO meaning generative engine optimization. Andy, tell us and our listeners, what is generative engine optimization?
Well, as we just discussed, SEO is about search engine optimization. So if you were a marketer and you wanted to be in that consideration set when somebody did a search, you wanted to be in the sponsored results or frankly, the organic results, then you paid somebody to optimize your site. A lot of it was keyword density. It's an old story, but you knew how to do that. But how do you, as a marketer, optimize to get in an answer for ChatGPT or an answer for Claude or an answer for Grok or any one of these other answer optimization or answer engines, right? So
Yeah.
it begs the question, how do you do it? Now, you and I have been doing roundtables all year long. We actually recently asked about this, and
We did.
everybody said it's a priority. And when we asked, how do you do it?
Yeah.
Nobody knew how to do it. So
Yeah.
there were some people who said, well, we've got ad agencies who are telling us they have a secret formula to get in uh, the answer engines, how to optimize for that. But when you ask them, it was like the commercial for the 1970s, ancient Chinese secret. Nobody knows what it is. Now
Yeah.
there are some things we're going to share here in a moment about how it's done, but man, for something that is such a major shift, it's amazing how few people have any idea what to do about it.
And I know, Andy, you were recently at the e-commerce tools summit, or it's called, was it Elevate? Is that the
Elevate.
Yeah.
Elevate, yeah.
And you heard someone from IDC, one of their analysts, talk about this. And this is, we took a quote from her, Heather Hershey, who's the research director for digital commerce for IDC. She said by 2028, so that's, just a couple years from now, Gen AI enabled search platforms will become the primary UI for shopping and product discovery. That's e-commerce, folks, and commerce in general. And this requires a profound shift in corporate marketing strategy. This gets to the crux of what we're talking about. In fact, IDC went further and they said traditional search volume could drop by 25% by 2026. That's next year, as buyers turn to AI-powered tools. Andy, what was your takeaway? You heard her speak in person.
Yeah, I mean, she did a great job. She really explained it quite well. I commend people to take a look at. I think it's on Commerce Tools website. You can look at the keynote addresses. But what I'm interested in is those numbers. I think are somewhat accurate. Just look at your own behavior. How often do you use Google now versus one of the answer engines, right? ChatGPT, or even when you're using Google, how often are you using Gemini, right? Not even looking at the search engine results. So this may be conservative. She may actually be kind, and that the numbers could be much worse than that. But it all begs the question, what does a marketer do to make sure that you're in that discussion, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that before you could compete by having a link there. Now, how do you compete to get in an answer?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so one of the things she said that was fascinating, I think other people have talked about this too, is that um, the way in which the answer engines, I guess it's a general term for them, the AI engines, the way they gather their information is largely based on the context of the buyer.
Yeah.
And it's a very kind of amorphous thing that not everybody fully understands. So if you're a marketer trying to edge your way into that answer, how do you do it? Now, we're going to share a few ideas here in a moment, but it's going to change the way in which, this is the point, marketers like run their website. Because when you have a website, you might have emotional pleas and pretty pictures and interesting kind of descriptions. At the end of the day, the answer engine's like, I don't care about any of that crap. I'm just looking for the facts. What's the price? What's the description? What does it do? And is it available? And all that other stuff that marketers spend a lot of time on, imagery, branding, may become pretty irrelevant when it comes to how ChatGPT decides whether to include you in an answer or not. So imagine that for a moment. What does a marketer do when the website's kind of irrelevant?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So I lived this for many years, Andy, right? As a VP of e-commerce, we would sit and we would say, okay, here's the playbook for search engine optimization. Search would be a huge percentage of the traffic we would drive to our website. It was a very, very important, still is a very important part of your marketing and how you drive traffic and sales in e-commerce. We would do, these traditional best practices, a very clear playbook. This is just a little bit of context. Won't spend too much time here, but we would say, hey, let's, we have a list of keywords we want to optimize for. We would, optimize the pages for that, the URLs, the titles, the descriptions. We would make sure the website was fast, it was indexable, that we would have backlinks. That was a big deal, right? We get links from other sites back to our site, making sure the user experience was easy, that everything was structured. And, there were well-established tools and practices to monitor all this. Well, it's not that this is all out the window, but it seems to be heading out the window, right? I mean, at least a fair amount of it. So when we asked, we asked a lot of different sources as we talked to our roundtable participants, as well as actually doing searches on this. And talking to practitioners and just trying to understand what's the next level. What is GEO best practice now? What do? You have all this stuff you've done for years in SEO. Does any of it have any benefit? Well, it turns out that some of it has some, but really the nature has changed. Number one is an understanding that AI answers, the answer engine component. Think about Google at the top of the search result. It is going to reduce the amount of clicks. So the point that the IDC analyst made, and I listened to her presentation, was, you have to anticipate some reduction in clicks, but if your sales are going up at the same time, like your e-commerce sales are going up at the same time your clicks are going down, that means you're doing something probably right in the generative engines to stay relevant, right? Because while the click isn't coming from the generative engine, it is, it's still, people will still find you because you're maybe you mentioned that in that search result or in that answer. Semantic relevance rules. What does that mean? Topics, focusing on topics, not just keywords. In other words, it's the importance of the application, the expertise, the authoritativeness, the trustworthiness. IDC calls that EAT. Expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness. That is more important than anything else. Which, look, if you've done good SEO and you have backlinks and people referring to you as an authority in something, and you have good content you've published, that can help you in these generative engines. And that was a best practice. Yeah,
this
right. What's good?
What's
right.
good? So get ready for the content explosion, where I think you're going to have companies using bots to just create tons of content. It'll be the new keyword. Like you wanted to have keyword density, now you're going to have content density. Right. Where they're going to be cranking out, hey, you want this use case? We got it. You want that use case? We got it. And it'll be like a 10-page thought leadership report that nobody will read, but it's only there to be picked up by the answer engines. And even then, I'm sure the answer engines, the generative AI tools will figure that one out and go, oh, this is just garbage content. And then, so it could be this like arms race where you've got all these companies creating this garbage content that then the answer engines kind of weed through and score. And then somebody's going to figure out whether this is good quality content or low quality content. I think this is actually not a plug for us. This is where stuff we do might make a difference. And the authoritative third-party organizations, because by definition, our stuff is more objective than what, say, a vendor puts out for themselves.
Well, so a lot of that content will be generated by AI, right? So I can imagine a world where AI agentic, agents are evaluating whether the content that is being generated by a company is in fact authoritative and created by AI or not. Listen. In the course of what we do we leverage AI to help us, kind of summarize things? Yes, but we always, in our world, we're putting our own flavor, interpretation on the research we're doing. We're interpreting what it means. And so I imagine a world wherein the bots, the answer engines are evaluating the quality of the source of this, right? I mean, Google's done this for years, and in many ways with search engine optimization, the quality of the backlink that you get back to your website weighed heavily on the, how heavily they would say, hey, this should influence search results because it's coming from a government site, or, like the government's certified this company. Well, that has a lot of weight it used to in the world of Google's natural search. So if the government is producing something, if the military says, hey, this is a military grade aerospace component, well, I'd imagine that the learning models or the answer engines will say, okay, I'm going to give that more weight. That is an authority. So I think there's some
unless they're using AI too. Which...
Well, right. That's right. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all develops.
Circular. Right? No, I think third-party authoritative sources that are, who meet certain standards, that's what it's going to be. You can't just crank out. It's like you couldn't crank out a bunch of keywords. You're not gonna be able to just crank out a bunch of content.
Well, we did, man. We did all kinds of crazy stuff back in the day. And it just all reminds me of SEO in, say, 2004 and 2005 and 2006, where you were able to go in and rank for a non-branded keyword almost instantly. I would put up websites. Back in the day, we would put up a website which is all about a specific topic, and we would put content on there, and we would get backlinks for it, and then we would direct that topical content to our e-commerce site. It was a game, man. And so these days, I can see the same kind of gaming, at least starting people trying these things, because there's still a lot of uncertainty, and then when there's uncertainty, and that's where people come in and they try things. So these best practices that are emerging are going to be formed probably over the next 5 to 10 years. And we'll have a playbook for GEO, but it's going to take a while to get there. But some of the foundational things like structured scannable content, make sure the engine can see your content. You're going to have to change how you measure the results here, because it's not going to be based on clicks. You're going to have to figure out how much you're showing up in the answers, right? Not just appearing in top search results, right? It's going to be how much, and then how do I measure that? Because the AI is now looking at, if you're using ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, that's looking at your behavior so you need some objective source of measuring, how that is, that result, your mentions, are they in fact showing up, or is it just being influenced by, what you searched in the past? So fascinating stuff, Andy. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it'll be a new game with new metrics, new KPIs. And I think the challenge is that for us B2B companies, we're just getting used to the old way of doing things. And now all of a sudden there's going to be this entirely new way of doing things. But I want to come back to the content. I know Jason, we have a quote in here from Jason, if you want to bring that in. Jason Hines said, the challenge will be, can B2B companies create content about the products they sell that maintain the sourcing of where the content comes from, that keeps it authenticated by suppliers to preserve indemnification and product liability coverage? Yeah, there's going to be a chain of custody about content now. Like, did this really come from the manufacturer? And did the manufacturer actually use AI to create this? I mean, what's going to be the authoritative source? By the way, this is a problem across all of society. It's the same thing with media coverage in the news. It's going to be a problem with videos that you find online. How many have you seen recently where they're like, this is an AI generated video?
Right.
Are we going to have to establish that this was done by AI?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, and who's going to decide whether AI is real or not? Right. I mean, these are all questions.
Other AI agents, it's going to be, it's going to be interesting.
And it's going to call into question what's real and what's not. And I tell you, in B2B, it's going to be a big deal because the ramifications, as Jason pointed out, are huge. If AI gets something wrong, it hallucinates something, or there's no process in place for verifying it, then you could put the wrong part in a machine, it could blow up the machine, it could kill people. If you buy the wrong t-shirt, the color's off a little bit, who cares? Nobody got killed. But in B2B, the consequences can be pretty dire. And so there's probably going to be an industry that's going to arise around validating whether things are real or not.
I bet.
And Jason just put something else in. The lawyers will decide eventually. Well, unless the lawyers are AI as well. I mean, but yeah, there will be a lot of legal ramifications to these things. But I always remind people, humans are not infallible as well. We were talking about AI making a few mistakes. Humans make mistakes too. And so we have to compare apples to apples here, not apples to oranges, and say, well, gosh, AI made a few mistakes. Let's not use it. Well, what about that standard with humans too? Humans make mistakes. Humans put the wrong things in machines. Humans kill other humans. So again, what's the standard going to be and what's real? That's all.
It's right. It's only a fundamental shift in, I don't know, everything. So Andy and I were wondering, how long do we think this is going to take? So we asked our community on LinkedIn, what do you think the time frame is this? When will GEO become more important in driving traffic versus traditional search engine optimization? 1 year. 76% of the people who responded to the poll said 1 year. 21% said 3 years. Only 3% said 5 years, and nobody said never. So
this shocked me.
Yeah, it's that fast. Wow, because it's still tiny, right?
Well, yeah, but I think what I think makes this one different is people are personally using these tools.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's using ChatGPT, and so when it comes along and says, "Hey, as a marketer, how do you find yourself getting into these answer sets?" Well, they're using these tools right now and they're seeing, hey, this seems pretty random. And so I think it's the fact that they're eating their own dog food, so to speak. B2B marketers are using this for work, is they're seeing the shift in their behavior. And it's certainly a white collar phenomenon. Everybody we know is using these tools, right? So I think it's the personal adoption that has really changed the equation here. But despite all of that, I still was shocked that such a high number of people said within 1 year it will displace SEO. If we'd said, hey, will be important. No, this was, will it replace, basically? It's going to become more important than SEO. So, wow, things are moving fast.
Yeah, no, this is really exciting, Andy. We'll continue to follow this, folks, as we, as we watch and continue to talk about AI across the business. This is an important area, obviously. So a couple quick announcements as we go past our Friday 20 mark. Oh, gosh. So I want to remind everyone about our Master B2B Nexus service. This is your personal digital lifeline. If you are a B2B e-commerce executive at a manufacturer distributor, this service is designed to help you avoid mistakes, make decisions more quickly, get you the information and the people to talk to so you make better decisions. You don't put your job on the line. You make the right decisions. That's what this is all about, folks.
Case in point here, right? GEO.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
We know how to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So we encourage you to go to our website, masterb2b.com, and look for the Nexus part of the site and check it out. It is a paid service, so you know, and it is for practitioners only. We also have our forum, which has a ton of members in it, lots of interaction every day, people asking questions, even about AI, but all kinds of things, digital experience optimization, e-commerce platforms, PIMs, and people are asking questions about all these things. Practitioners only. It is free for practitioners. Go to our website, click on forum. And then finally, I want to remind everyone about our Friday 15. It is available as a podcast on your favorite podcast service. Just go to Google, Spotify, Google Play, Spotify, Apple, our website, YouTube. You can find us all over the place. And please give us a rating and review if you like us, that is. If you don't, you don't have to pay attention to what I just said. Anyhow, folks, we encourage you to check it out. Thank you again for joining us. Any final words before we wrap for this Friday 15?
No.
Whoa, excellent. Well done. All right, we're going to let our band take us out here. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next week.